Hey guys, welcome back. So today I thought we'd take a little trip down memory lane and look at all the anthurium hybrids I've ever created, starting from my first one being roughly 4 years ago. And in that 4 years, I didn't make a ton of hybrids, granted. Like there was a good chunk of time in the middle where I made no hybrids. And I think part of that was due to busyness and not having a lot of time to do it, but also not being inspired by the flowering plants I had, and they weren't just making me want to make hybrids. But in the last couple of years, I've been making a lot more. I didn't count how many I'm going to be showing you today, but it's enough to fill a video. I think I'm going to try to do this in chronological order, starting from like the very first hybrid I ever made and kind of go through the years until now. I got this video idea, by the way, from Charmaine. She told me just to do like a video on all the hybrids I've ever made. And so I took that video, I tucked it away nice and safe, and I said to myself, I'm going to use it for when I don't know what to film, and that day happens to be today. So anyway, before I start showing you the plants, I just want to say this video is not meant to show you how great of a hybridizer I am, because I'm certainly not, but I do want to highlight, first of all, the importance of picking a strong mother plant, and second of all, just show you like how much patience is required to go from the first pollination to seeing a plant with its own defining characteristics. It's going to take a really long time. And I know there's a lot of people who's getting into it right now as their plants are growing to flowering size. And so just to give you a little bit of a peek of what to expect. So the first time I ever bred an anthurium was around this time in 2021, so about 4 years ago. And it was with a, it was not ideal, okay? So it was a dark forgetii that had imported from Ecuagenera, I think. Could have been tropicals. At that time, I knew far less than I do now, and I didn't realize that forgetii just flower when they're super young, when they're not ready to be mother plants. But I got one, it was flowering, and so it was a freshly imported plant. I threw pollen on it. So the pollen was from my friend's like very established dark forgetii that he had for a really long time. And it made little seedlings. Of that batch of forgetiis, I only ever kept one. And what I'm about to show you is just hold on to your horses. You're just gonna see it and just like drop to your knees in awe of nature, marvel at its boundless majesty. Are you ready? Here she is. So this one has been with me since I guess the tail end of 2021. It is, yeah, she's not doing great. This, by the way, all these little dots, this is just stray pollen from an old flower. It's not pests. I've said this before, I find forgetii not the easiest plant to grow in ambient. I find them quite easygoing once they're in like my tent, for example, but I can't really justify keeping a forgetii there that maybe I don't care about as much as other plants that are currently in my tent. So this one has been living in ambient for as far as I can remember, and it doesn't love it. I do know that I let it dry out more often than I like, and the last leaf it put out shriveled. It didn't do anything, and then I don't see an active growth point. Let's see. Yeah, the caterpillar isn't pushing any growth right now, but it is flowering. I'm pretty sure because it wants to get the heck out of here. If you want to see a good specimen from this batch, go to Natasha's channel, Planted in Platinum. I'll link her in the description, but she did buy one of these from me a few years ago, just a little seedling, and she's been growing it like miles better than I have. So one thing I haven't tried with forgetii is to grow it in pon. Right now it's in tree-borne soil, which I do let dry out, as I mentioned, but maybe if I put it into pon with like a deeper reservoir, we can avoid stuff like this. So when I do get around to addressing this plant, that's probably the move that I'll make. I will be honest, I do have a good number of forgetii. That one is not my favorite. But I do attach sentimental value to it because it's like kind of where it all began for me. But with that one, I will say I was pretty surprised that like a good number of seedlings end up growing to like a proper plant, being that it came from a freshly imported, very juvenile forgetii. I'm pleasantly surprised that some of them grew up. Like this is not, it's not tiny, it's not runty, it's ugly due to poor conditions and poor care, but it's not a runt. Side note, I've been seeing some discussions in the anthurium groups about what constitutes a runt. I agree with some people who say that the word runt gets thrown around a little bit too often and being applied to plants that aren't necessarily runts. So let's say you have a a batch of seedlings. Not all of the seeds are going to be harvested off of the flower. They're not going to be ready at the same time. So you're going to harvest a few more will ripen, they harvest a few, and so they're going to get planted and germinate at different, like a staggered schedule. So in the first few months, you're going to see ones that kind of size up and grow and take off a lot quicker than others, but that doesn't necessarily mean the ones that are straggling behind are runts. I don't know if there's a clear-cut definition of what a runt would mean, but for me, it would be this plant never grows. And when it does grow, it doesn't size up and it's kind of stuck at this small state forever. While we're on the topic of runts, that brings us to, I think, what I'm pretty sure is the next hybrid I made. So this one was done between me and my friend Jing. So it was her plant as a mother plant, which was tofu, and using my dark forgetii as the pollen parent. And tofu, we have found, is really not a strong mom. It kind of is a little bit like King of Spades, where a lot of the seeds end up rotting. The yields are really, really tiny. And I don't have many from that batch. I only have 2, I believe. And also, if you want to see a nicer one from that batch from Tofu Gedii, go to Natasha's channel again, because she has shown this. I'm pretty sure she showed this in her tent tour. So maybe I'll link that video in the description. So one of the ones I kept, I would classify as a runt. Bear in mind, this was done, I believe, at the tail end of 2021. I think. So it's been quite a few years and this is what it looks like. I've kept this for so long because I thought it was interesting how the leaf shape is a little bit bleached, but the leaf shape is very like little sharp little triangles. This unfortunately dried out because it lives in a dome that I neglected and I just thought they all had moisture, but it was really just algae and they were all dried out. But the leaf shape is kind of like this. This plant kind of sucks. The other one I have also dried out and is really, really, it's basically a stump, but this is what that one looked like. This one I quite like because it's so bumpy and it did have a few sinus and it just kind of reminds me of like an alligator or something, you know, like it just had a very kind of poisony green color. But anyway, neither of them are really much to write home about. The one that Natasha got, because when she bought that forgetii from me, I sent her to forgetii seedlings just for funsies. And one of them looks so dark. It's so cute. Like it looks a lot like pap, which made me think that tofu gedii has pap in it and it just kind of expressed itself in the offspring. Because tofu gedii, I forgot to say, tofu gedii is, I think it was imported as like ace of spades or something like from Indonesia. So it's obviously not an ace of spades. It's very, very veiny and is essentially a no ID. So since then, I don't think Jing has tried anything with tofu, but maybe it would be better off as a pollen parent than anything. But I don't think she's tried again. So those are my first 2 pollinations. That was with arguably very weak mother plants. And then now we're getting into a time in my life where I had a lot of like cool plants, but we're way too young to breed with and they weren't even flowering. So I had a few older plants that were like more like standard anthurium, like the basics, like magnificum, forgetii, crystallinum, things like that. And I wasn't super like motivated to breed with them because I thought there's like enough of them out there. But one time I had this Indomag. It's this really massive thing. It's not a pure magnificum as far as I'm aware. It's from Indonesia. It's most likely not a pure magnificum. And one day I remember I was just getting ready and I was like looking at my plants, like because I get ready in this room. And so I just turn around and just look at my plants every now and then. And that one was receptive. And then I was just like, may as well. Like I had a forgetii that was next to it that was in pollen. So I just took some, slapped it on, went about my day. And then after a few months, that Meg produced like so many seedlings. And I actually took the seeds off on camera. And I remember when I collected those berries, I collected all of them, whether they were ready or not. So I wasn't really willing to like, or maybe I just didn't have time. That's mostly I didn't have time to only collect the ripe ones, wait, do another batch, wait, you know, all that. So I ripped everything off at the same time. And a lot of them didn't even germinate, which is pretty understandable if you harvest the seeds too quickly. And then a whole bunch of them did, and I had a lot of them for a while, but now I only have one left. Oh, by the way, the forgetii is a lot easier to show you. It's this one here. I really like this one. This one's the only one I have that is silvery, but this one's what I call the rhino skin forgetii because it has Like, do you see this? That like pebbly green? And it's quite dark. It really does not love it in ambient. As you can see, it grows super, super slowly. And then this is the little offspring that I kept. I was so delighted to see that it inherited that grainy rhino skin texture. And this is probably the cutest leaf it's ever put out. After I put out this leaf, it aborted the next leaf. You can see here, the shriveled off leaf here. It's also put out a little offset, which is right here. So I'm going to be removing this and giving it to Charmaine because she saw this in my exo when she came here to water when I was on vacation, and she was like, I love this. She thought I made some secret Carla hybrid or something. The only reason why I kept this, by the way, I wasn't selecting it for any sort of specific traits because a lot of them looked super similar. They had like bold silver veins, and so they were surprisingly dark because they were living in a bin directly under grow lights and they weren't getting bleached. They were staying nice and dark like this. The only reason why I kept this was the biggest one. I wasn't even selecting it for any specific traits. I was just very pleasantly surprised that it inherited my favorite characteristics of the pollen parent, which is the texture. So I will also be repotting this fairly soon because I need to remove that offset for Charmaine. I might upsize the pot. I'm not really sure yet, but this one is definitely easier. Like, it's a little bit neglected right now, so it doesn't look the best, but it's definitely easier than the Forgetii, which it makes sense because it's a hybrid. And then sometime around the same time as that hybrid, my Forgetii, the same one, this one right here, it put out a flower and it just started turning green, started turning bumpy, and I was like, I didn't pollinate you. So I'm pretty sure it selfed itself. And being not a super mature plant, I wasn't really sure what to expect of the offspring, and the offspring aren't huge either. I tried to research and see if that's something that Forgetii commonly do, just like spontaneously self, but I couldn't really find any information. But anyway, the one that I kept, I am so glad I kept this one because even though it's a little bit dwarfy, I think it is so fun. I like it so much, and this is it. It is so dark, but so skinny. Every leaf has been like that. For the longest time, they were just like these little needles with one bold silver vein down the middle. Here's an older leaf, just black with like one silver stripe. And then the last two have started to grow a little bit more silver veins. It's just like a little trident down the middle. I like this so much. This one has been growing inside of a bin. So it's been in 100% humidity. It probably could use an upsize at some point. The reason why I want to do the upsize is because I'm curious to know whether it will continue to size up or it's always going to stay in this kind of general size. And I guess maybe that's the difference between a dwarf and a rund, is that a dwarf will continuously grow, but it never sizes up, but it's like healthy and it's like kind of bushy and it just presents a little bit more, I guess, healthy overall than a rund, which always looks a little bit sickly. But I have an inkling that this is going to be the type of plant that will hate it in ambient, so I'll probably continue to grow it in higher humidity. Once it outgrows that bin, I might have to move it into a tent. I would say also probably an exo, but I'm not even 100% sure I'm going to be keeping these exos. I might be tearing this down and just making this like an ambient wall. When I have the budget and the time to do so, that's my next goal for this plant room. But anyway, this one came off of not the strongest mother plant, but I think it is really cool. And because the mom is so dark and has such great texture, I really do want to breed it with Carla at some point. Right now, my only flowering Carla is producing berries, so I didn't want to throw another set of pollen on it, but maybe in the future. It's definitely on my list of breeding to-dos. So 2023 near the tail end is when I started to breed a little bit more. I will say 2024 is where I bred the most. And the ones I'm going to show you now are either just with my own plants or they're a collaboration with Charmaine or a collaboration with Jing. So one of my favorite hybrids I made last year was a PAP hybrid. So the mother plant was my PAP RA5 self. This plant here, it was a plant that I got as a seedling from my friend Amanda. So anyway, my plant, I think looks quite a lot like the mom, where it was like very round. It's very, very bullied, super bumpy. It was quite green. It's not like a really, really blackish pap by any means. If you watched my video last week, I took that one out of my tent. It was huge and it was very, very neglected and it's not looking good. So I chopped it down to one leaf. So it's not anything to show right now, but this is what it looked like when it was being bred. And then the pollen parent was a Fortune Ralphinum that was originally from Grant that I got from my friend Jose. Me and Charmaine went in on this together to use it as a breeding parent. And I love this pap so much. It looks like blue toned. It's got that Fort Sherman rough linum or rough linum Fort Sherman, like exaggerated, pointy. It looks really angry. It just looks a little bit evil. And I think in total, I only have maybe 2 or 3 of this batch left. And this is my favorite. This is my one that I chose to live inside my tent. It is so cute. It's getting a little bit blown out, but it's super dark in person. It's very, very dagger-like. It definitely took after the dad. Here's an older leaf that looks quite dark as well. It's currently pushing a leaf. It's planted in tree fern soil at the moment and it just lives right here in my tent. This is one of the more vigorous hybrids I've ever made. I feel like a bunch of you watching will have this because we've been selling it on lives and on Jing's website. I think I might be done selling them. Charmaine's half I think is also already pretty much sold out, but there might be 1 or 2 in the future. I'm not sure. But I show this one quite often because I'm so proud of it. It's so cute. And the mom at the time, the Pat Barre 5 was really, really healthy. And I believe it was the 3rd flower that I had pollinated. I might be wrong, but I've been waiting for it to flower for so long. It tried to flower once and the first flower never made it out of the petiole. And I think maybe it was like 1 full one after that. And then the 3rd one I pollinated. This one is still very young, but I really, really hope that it keeps up this shape and this general color. I feel like the color will stay like this, but the shape, I hope it stays really, really slender. And I sold a lot of them like when they were much younger than this, so I don't know what they look like now. If you have one, feel free to like send me a picture on Instagram or something. But I was kind of surprised when they were growing up, a lot of them took after the dad. And since doing that pollination, the Fortune Moralphinum has not flowered again for me, which is really sad. It's put out a few more leaves, but just it doesn't want to flower through those leaves. But I would like to use it again to hybridize. And around the same time, me and Charmaine did one with her Brielle with my Crystal Black as the pollen parent. This one we were pretty sure what to expect. We were expecting like very silvery crystalline-y looking things. So I have just a small handful of them, and I think I have been struggling a lot with getting the lighting correct because when I was growing them in a bin directly under grow lights, kind of like these bins right here, the plants were bleaching so badly. The whole leaf was turning like a pale greeny yellow. So I dialed the light back on some of them. Some of them I kept them in the same conditions, but I feel like the light has been the reason why some of them have kind of died back a little bit. So the ones I kept aren't looking amazing, but here they are. So there's these 3 I feel like look a little bit different. So here's one. I want to say there's probably a bit of dry rot in here because I let this bin completely dry out a few times, like it was dusty dry. You can probably see from the roots up here, it's like you can see some desiccated roots. I'll probably get this one out and repot it into fresh substrate again sometime soon. And then this one was one of the stragglers. So when other plants were about this size, it was still like seedling size, but eventually it did get going. And I thought the shape on this one was really cute. The next leaf after that looked very, very similar to this one. I think I kept this one because it was a little bit blacker. So this one currently lives in my tent and it's not very happy. This one lives in a dome. Not super unhappy, but not super happy either. And then this one I kept. This one's much bigger. I kept this one because the venation was just a little bit different. It's like a little bit more chalky. It looks a little bit more feathery. It's not like as defined as this one. I'll just show it to you side by side. It just looks different. Here's an older leaf. I don't know if like I'll keep it forever, but it was enough of an outlier that I thought would be interesting to keep. And it's put out another leaf, but I want to say it's living at the top of my tent, which after I removed a lot of leaves in there, it's so much brighter that I feel like it's getting a little bit bleached again. So I might move this one, but those are my keepers from that batch. And then me and Charmaine also did another hybrid last year, which is like one of my favorites that I've ever made. So my King of Spades flowered a whole bunch of times last year. It hasn't flowered in a really long time. I'm not really sure why, but when it was flowering, I was just trying to get the pollen on as many things as I could because I wasn't going to use it as a mother plant, but King of Spades can be a really dominant parent. And so when you use it even as a pollen parent, a lot of the offspring look a lot like King of Spades. So we put some King of Spades pollen on Charmaine's Red Crystal Port. Her Red Crystal Port is a hybrid done by Amanda, and it's like very it's very cute. Like it's a very clean, clean veins. It's kind of got the rhino skin as well. And it's just like a nice, cute, like short little fat lobes, love heart shaped plant. And that hybrid is where we found out that my King of Spades is also a bad pollen parent because a lot of the seeds rotted. I would estimate that probably about 75% of the seeds just rotted away into nothing. Like they were like half half a seed. Like I don't know where that other half went, just got eaten away by mites. But when I saw the seeds, I was like, what the heck happened? It almost looked like a little rodent went and like took bites out of it. So I only have 2 from that hybrid, and I'll just show you the biggest one. This thing is just a delight. It has been so vigorous. Like of the ones that made it, that just persevered through the rot, have been like wonderful to grow. I originally had it growing in a little square pot about this size, and then when I repotted it, I moved it directly into this giant thing, and it did root out really well. This is also tree friend soil, so I am excited to see if the next leaf sizes up even more. So this was the size up from okay, I believe when I put it into this pot, it was this leaf as the newest leaf. And then it went to here in this pot. And then the newest leaf is here. And this one went from being in a bin to my tent. So it's always had really good conditions to grow in. This kind of has been a bit like King of Spades for me in that it's been hard to bleach, because I find King of Spades can take quite a bit of light without bleaching. But I'm just kind of waiting to see if it inherits the King of Spades really thick, chunky roots that don't like to sit in water. So far, I've been keeping this more like my other anthurium, where I never let it dry out, not even a little bit. Or I should say, in an ideal world, like I don't let it dry out. This one in particular, I feel like has been getting like proper care because it's been living at the front of my tent, so I don't neglect it and I water it on time. I don't recall this one ever drying out, and I don't see brown mushy rot in here from overwatering. I don't see any angry leaves from overwatering. So I will say, at least for now, this one has kind of standard anthurium care requirements, whereas for a King of Spades, it took me a long time to realize that they should dry out a little bit more. For my King of Spades, I don't let dry out 100% like I do my clarinervium, but I would definitely let it get probably like 70% dry before I water. But unsurprisingly, this one took on a lot of King of Spades. And while we're here, I'm just going to show you the other specimen I have. It's so tiny in comparison, but it is sizing up with each leaf. It's just a lot slower, but it's so cute. It's so teeny tiny, like round, fat little thin veined. Oh, it's so cute. But just to show you the difference on these 2 plants, like this one is so strong in comparison. And then I also put my King of Spades pollen onto my friend Jing's Dark Phoenix. So I believe these seeds were harvested around September of 2024, but similar to the red crystal port, a lot of those seeds rotted, because I remember I wanted to bring some seeds down with us to IAS, and I brought I think 4 seeds to IAS to give to Paulina and Josh. And in transit, those seeds just rotted. Like by the time we got to Miami, I looked inside the cup and there was just brown little seeds. So those were dud. But that also meant that the total batch, which would have been about 80 plus seeds, I only ended up having like maybe 12, 15, and the same goes for Jing. But of the 12 to 15 that I kept, they are turning out so cute. Personally, I wanted to do something to Dark Phoenix that made it not look like a Dark Phoenix anymore, because from what I was observing for other people's hybrids, Dark Phoenix is also a very strong parent, similar to Pap, but I also know that King of Spades is really strong. So I wanted something to really go up against Dark Phoenix and maybe even create something that's very down the middle. I thought it could go a few ways. I thought it could be like a very fat Dark Phoenix, or it could be a very like minimal King of Spades. And the seedlings are still small, but I can say that there's some that exhibit both of those sides. So the ones that look more like Dark Phoenix so far, here's one. It looks like a fat little Dark Phoenix. Like, you know how Dark Phoenix has that very pillowy, puffy texture? It has pushed out a little leaf, so I will be watching to see if it looks very Dark Phoenixy. Here's one that I feel like is very down the middle. So it has the texture of Dark Phoenix, but it has the veins peeking through and it's a little bit wider. But again, we'll see if more silver shows up. But so far, I feel like this one is like the most down the middle between Dark Phoenix and King of Spades. And then we have these ones that I feel like are a lot more King of Spades heavy. Look at this one. I have a few that look very much like this, but those like very thin, spidery King of Spades veins. I took 3 that were getting too tall for that bin, and I upsized them to 4-inch pots. And I also moved them into my tent to be a little bit farther away from the light to see if I can get them darker. But this one so far is my favorite. This one is just so spidery and the veins are super pinstripe thin. I think this one has really good potential. This one is maybe also more on the Dark Phoenix side, And then this one is probably my biggest one. This one started touching the lid of the bin soonest, and so this one was what prompted me to move everything. Oh, big fat root right here. And it also pushed out a new leaf, which is showing veins. So these ones like they're probably my most watched hybrid that I've made, because I just don't know what to expect. And I couldn't find another example of someone hybridizing Dark Phoenix King of Spades. I wouldn't be surprised if it's already been done, especially like in Indonesia where these plants are from, but I haven't personally seen examples of it. This one, the really spidery one, is one I'm definitely keeping. I will probably let go of a couple down the road, but I just want to see a little bit more maturity first. And then at the same time as the King of Spades hybrids, we also put my Pap RA5 on that same Dark Phoenix of Jing's. And of that batch, the seeds were so much healthier than the King of Spades. I recall 100 plus seeds being harvested off that plant, and they pretty much all germinated, and they were like healthy little plants. I think I sold all but one or two of them. And they're not huge, but this is what they look like. They're very Dark Phoenix heavy. I will say of all the ones that I've been growing, I picked all the best ones and sold them, and I kept the smallest ones for myself. And the only reason is like I know I can make this hybrid again, and I have a Dark Phoenix, and I also had Jing's Dark Phoenix Self, and I just had like a lot of pap stuff that I didn't need to hoard a lot of these seedlings. So I only kept a couple, and I kept the arguably weakest one for myself. So if you guys have this, you have stronger plants than I do, and I hope they're sizing up quicker. Here is one I didn't do on purpose, but it was a spontaneous selfing. I'm hesitant to open this box because look at it. It's like busting out of here, and I know that if I open it, it'll be hard to close it again without like accidentally smushing some leaves. But this one is Obtusum narrow-form selfed. I guess it's an S2 because the mother plant was a selfing of Amanda's Obtusum narrow-form, and this one had the freakiest little seeds. They were pearly white, really round. They have pink little nipples on them. And I was just like, I don't pay too much attention to that plant because it just hangs on the side of my tent. And then when I saw those berries, I was like, and I knew it had flowered, and it was kind of just like a light pale green, like really spiky little spadix. And then I just wasn't paying attention to the flower for a long time. And then a few months down the road, I saw these like pearly little boobs, and it's a very odd thing. And the berries were also kind of weird to handle. So when it looked like they were pretty much ready, I harvested them, and the berries inside had like 4 or 5 really tiny little seeds. They're very similar to like when lingeri seeds, but the flesh inside the berry was like, you know, those like little Asian jello shots with the fruit inside. That's kind of what it was like. It was very jelly-like. And I remember at the time I was like chatting with Owen, and he told me to eat one just for science, and I tasted it, and that was also really freaky because it didn't taste like anything. It was very almost water-like. So anyway, I don't know what to do with this because I don't have enough pots. There's 110 seedlings in here for what I remember sowing. I think what I need to do is get like a ton of little like kind of shot glass, little plastic cups, and just pick a good podcast and just spend an afternoon potting these all. And then one of my most recent hybrids, one that I've been so excited about, and a bunch of you will have seedlings from this batch as well. And it's my Carla Wu One Self by Carla BVEP, which is Carla GPH by BVEP Round. That batch I think yielded like 120 seeds or something. And I was really pleasantly surprised to see that the seeds were strong and like they all germinated, maybe minus like 3, 4. And now I'm just waiting for them to size up. So I'm just going to show you a few. There's ones that look more Carla heavy, like this one. I would say that was pretty much what a Carla seedling would look like. Here's another one. And then there's ones that look maybe arguably more minimally veined, at least at this point in time. Really hoping it doesn't drip on me, but here's one. It has a thin red vein down the middle. Here's another one that has pretty minimal veins. And I think they're at the point now where like maybe in 2 leaves, there's gonna be exponential size jumps. Well, I mean, already you could argue that it's like exponential size jumps. So like from here to here to here. Oh, look at this one. I can't really tell from the viewfinder if it's actually showing pink for you guys. In person it's very bubblegummy. But anyway, at the beginning it can be like super slow going. Having grown my fair share of anthurium by seed, Not all of them are my hybrids, but a lot of them came to me as like a little sprouted seed. It feels like it takes so long for them to size up at the beginning because they'll be constantly growing. They grow pretty fast at that size. So it's like one leaf after the other, but then the overall size of the plant doesn't increase until it hits that point where like it starts to just go. I'm gonna show you one right now that's not my hybrid. It's actually Josh's hybrid. So this one is a Pap by Pap. So it's Pap Peace, Pease by Voldemort. And I got this as a one leaf seedling from Josh sometime last year. It's been growing in a dome in 100% humidity. And it was kind of like staying like a little bushy thing until this leaf. And then from there, huge size jump. Like from the side, you can kind of see how much longer the petiole is. This one has pretty much, I feel like it's done expanding, but could get a little bit bigger. Actually, yeah, I'm pretty sure this one's going to get bigger, but it can take so much patience for it to get to this size. And then from here is where you start to see like the plant for who it is. Like my red crystal poor king of spades, like the first leaves are gone at this point, but going from like, oh wait, here's one of the original leaves here to here. And I think from here on is when we got massive size jumps, and then you can start seeing the traits of the plant. And here to here. So I feel like with these Carla BVEPs, we're like right on the cusp now. Maybe after this leaf, there might be one more, and then we're gonna start seeing more size jumps, and it's not gonna look like a seedling anymore. And then once it gets to that size, that's like my favorite size of anthurium. I realized this maybe about a year ago that I like maybe like this size of plant probably more than any other size of anthurium. This is not my hybrid, by the way, but this is just like, it's just great. You can't really do anything with it, you can't breed with it, but taking care of a plant this size is so, it's just so easy. And like they've gotten enough traits of the mature plant, but it's just packaged up in a handy little convenient package. So I'm really excited that like the Dark Phoenix King of Spades and the Carla BVEP, which are my most exciting hybrids right now, are just about entering that phase in life where they're just so delightful. And I'm just gonna quickly show you two of my most recent ones. So this one is Indo Mag, which is the same mag that made that hybrid from earlier, crossed with my Magris Carla, which is a hybrid done by Amanda. So originally I had tried to put my Magris Carla pollen on my Carla. That didn't take, but at the same time, there was a little bit of pollen left over, so I threw it on the Mag. And even though the Carla didn't take, the Mag did take. And these are, I mean, they're not anything to write home about right now, but here are the ones I kept. By the way, I also kept the smallest ones for myself. So I sold, I think like 15 of them last time we restocked the website. And the smallest one I just kept in this bin. Some of them are like, they're not small anymore. They almost look like stragglers at that point, but they're sizing up exponentially now. Like this one, it only had this tiny leaf when I planted it up, and then the next leaf after that was this big. And then this one, this little box, I accidentally smacked it and it fell. So I feel like some of the seeds got a little jostled, but this one is, the mom is Minahasa, and it's crossed with the Magris Carla as well. I love both of those plants so much. The Minahasa, when I got it, I really liked it, but I think I was more into dark and minimal veins at that point. But right now, it's one of my favorite ones in my collection. It just lives right here in ambient. And the seeds actually took quite a long time. I think it took about 5 or 6 months, and I didn't get many seeds off of it. So we shall see how these turn out, but since I dropped the box, I'm not sure if I've jeopardized any of these seedlings. I think some of them got a little bit buried. I'm gonna have to sort this out after I film. Oh, I forgot about these ones. This one is another batch of Dark Forgetty Eye by Dark Forgetty Eye. This one was a tiny batch, and I don't know why. I think probably the Dark Forgetty Eye that I used as the mom, which was very mature, not the strongest plant. So I only have 2 seedlings here that are actively growing. Every seed in here tried to do something, but like, look at this one. That is probably never gonna do anything. And this one is sprouting, but I'll give it a chance, but I doubt it's going to turn into a real plant. So that is all the hybrids I've ever created. I believe, I don't think I left any off. Of course, there were ones that like I pollinated, but it didn't go all the way to berry, or ones that I got berries off of, but the seeds never turned into anything. So obviously I left those off the list, but I believe that is everything. So hopefully looking through all of those hybrids and like kind of getting a sense of how long it's been since it got planted, you can kind of see the importance of choosing a really strong mother plant. Since growing berries takes so much energy out of the plant, you want to make sure that you choose one that you feel really good about, that you've had enough time with. And definitely the plants I showed later on in the video that I think, even though they're quite a lot younger than the ones I showed at the beginning of the video, are generally just more robust, and they did come off of mother plants that had been in my collection or my friends' collections for longer, and we had more of a longer history of growing them, and we just kind of knew of their capabilities, I guess, a little bit better. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope I've been able to get you through some spring plant chores. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Mwah!